Hey people, this is going to be some pure gold here. First I'm going to give away the prize for the Name That Skeptic contest. Destroyer 82 was in first place till I run into this. I was looking for some old Egyptian hieroglyphs to show in this video, and I run into this. I don't know where it comes from. It looks like it comes off a pink obelisk. I'm going to have to search into it. But I run into this somewhere else, and I was looking at it again, and it caused me to come read over here. And so what I was getting here, you know, this is the K, and this looked like a wall divisions to me, so I was going to read it as a H, you know, the catch, and then M-N-N-Y, and to catch many in jerk or work, arc, A-R-K, J-A-R-K, the jerk. And this is a Jew down here. This little stand represents the G, and three of them is a Jew, G-U. You know, to catch many, to work Jew. And then this double line over here is just like the line you see in the Hebrew writings. It means you read it backwards. And that's why they write it like this, so it reads Jew in either direction. And so now it's the joker, the J-U-K-R. Joker, when jokering men come. You know, to catch the many jerk Jew. Joker in men come. You know, C-H-M. Come as in divided from. But this is where I found that word right here. Got me thinking about it. And this is the O up here. It was the I to C. And then this is the ancient letter E, the life form. But it's dressed up, you know, the life. And so this is where your word to O, O-E comes from. You know, I owe you my life, to see life to, you know, to O. And this is the T. And so it's of it, and M, from, you know, meaning the past. And I was looking at this, and it looks like the set of scales. And it looks like two lambs sitting on the scales. And I was thinking this read, you know, the septic. In the Hebrew, you know, the Jews just left Egypt. They're writing in the same old language. And so the judgment, you know, the scales is the sepet. You know, and whatever I say, you sepet. And so this is, you know, it from sepet. And lamb, this is the lamb, you know, the sepetellum, you know, from sepetellum, you know, sept what they're told. And that's where the lamb comes from. You know, if it was just the mark T before the lamb, you know, it'd be tellum. But this is it, to see it sepet, to see it from sepetellum. And so I want to find the rest of this and see what it all says. And it's probably just a big joke. But that's where I made up this word, you know, is I'm a hetero. I'm a other than, you know, not gonna sepet, the sept what's told, and the call, that type of man, the sepetical man, the heterosepetical man. You know, into judgment, you know, is B-M, in from, and sepet at, in from sepet at. To accept what the judge says. You know, a just balancing scales from sepet. You know, and when you get sentenced, your judgment, you know, that's from septum. You know, from septum. You know, the ordinances and the judgments, matters of justice, the matters from septum. You know, the M, the from septic. From septal, L-A-M, you know, some S-P-T-L-A-M, from septellum, from septellum. And it looks like that's where the ancient words, the skeptical, would be coming from. The septical is, you know, other than hetero. Other than septical is skeptical. And this one was similar. Here you got the man, and you got a couple vowels in the owl. And you see there's more on the owl here. You know, it's the three plants, the triple X, which would be zoo in the Hebrew, which would be command. But this scroll up here, I believe this is a SCH or SCE. And this is the chet, you know, the H here. And so you can't think of any words with a double H. I believe when you have two of them together, The twist is to rye, and rye, R-I, I is the second. And I believe this changes from an H to a rye with two of them. The R-I-S-K-E-N, S-K-H-N, the riskin, and the life, the E, and the first vowel, and the third vowel, A-U, H-A-V. The riskin, have, from, and then three X's is a zoo, X-U, which is the command in the Hebrew. The riskin, have, from zoo. So when you're reading the Bible, in the King James, they try to paint the picture to look like this, but I found a spot where the writings look a lot more like this. And the word for the covenant is in the Brit, B-R-I-T. And that's what I was looking at when I run into this. So I found this poem in this last line, Ecclesiastes 10, and it reads in simple English, it reads in simple Egyptian, it reads in simple Phoenician, and it's also got this secret Mason code, except the secret Mason code is in all this translation they gave it that's not even close. In Hebrew, it's just all these extra dots up here to make all this confusing. But yeah, this was the ancient Phoenician, and English people have been reading this for thousands of years. It did read just like this. It was just plain old English. And the Hebrew is all the extra confusing dots. So if you just ignore those dots, all those dots, those are just if you want to be a doctor or a scientist or an astrologer. But we can read all this without all those dots. So they say it talks about the king and the curse, and that's going to tell us some information. And the bedroom, and to curse the rich, that's going to tell off a bunch. And the bird of the air that may carry your voice, and the bird in flight may tell the matter. So for the dumbest of the reading class people, they wrote this King James, and that was to push their agenda. Even in your thought, the king not cursed. Don't you be cussing the king. Even in your bedroom, not even in your bedroom by yourself, don't be cussing the king. And not do curse the rich, and don't be cussing the rich either. For a little bird of the air might carry your voice, and a bird in flight may tell the matter. Ooh, somebody might hear you've been bad talking the rich. I might hear you've been bad talking the king. And so the secret Mason code's in there, but you don't get the Mason code until after you read this old English here. This first letter's a G, and it represents the camel's foot. The camel's foot in water. Back in the day, they probably drew a whole camel, and they drew some waves over here, the camel and water. And it means, the camel means to lift or carry, and M is motion or from. And so it means, come. You're on the camel. To come, and come comes several different ways. It'd be KM, which is the fold from, as in 2 plus 2. The fold from is 4, the KM, or it can be chem, CH, the chet M, which is come from. If you're distilling, your divide from, what you divided from is also a come. And so this is come bum. Bum is your back end, and it's, so you would write this, you draw a camel and some water, and then the B, you draw the house. It means in from, so it means coming from. So you would just read this, come bummed, BMD, bummed, and O is of. Come bummed of the camel, KML. This is where your word camel come from. The GML is not a camel. Represents, it's the picture of a camel, but it doesn't mean a camel. Camel is a KML. And so, come bum, you could draw a picture of a man sitting on the back hump of a camel, and you come bum, you bum a ride from the camel, you're on the back. And it's, the house from. It's on the boat, that's why the house goes on the back of the boat. We call it the wheelhouse, back there where you steer the boat from. Your house is on back, and your holes all in the middle, and your mooring gear all up front. So you can break all this down into the pictures, and you can read all this in any language you speak just by creating the vision in your head. You don't have to make a spoken language. But it seemed like for a long time they worked with this to make this spoken language fit in. And with all these Hebrew marks, it goes several different ways. But, this reads, come bummed of a camel, come bummed of a camel, bum to ride, and to call, the camel call. And the text says, read that backwards, and to call, and you could say la la, or you could just say of or to, lift, LFT. And the camel call to lift, the camel call a lift, call a lift. And the fell, FLLU, the fella bitched, BHD, bitched rim, RIMS. The fella bitched rims, cab, KB, the cab, call. The fella bitched rims, cab call. You called the cab of the finest cab company. That's a limousine is what it's talking about. It's not your bedroom, it's a portable bedroom. It's a cubicle. It's from the shack cubicle. And that's where they're getting this bedroom is from the shack, but that's not what it's talking about. It's come bummed of camel, the call of lift. It means a rental to call a lift. The limousine company, the fella of the bitched rims, the one with the finest limo with the bitched rims, the bitched rims cab call, cabicle, the bitch rims cab call of lift the flosser. And so do not is of lift the call, but this is to lift the flosser, the rich. It's where you word floozy, floozer. She's a real floozer. The floss and being showy or showing off the expensive merchandise. The rich. The fella with the bitched rims. Call a lift from the fella with the bitched rims. The come bummed of a camel call a lift fella bitched rims cabicle. To lift the flosser, the flossing, the flosser to see, CI. Lift the flosser C. And so this bird of the air, this is a cat here, It's, a bird of the air may carry. And so it's OUP, it's hope. Hope is meow, M-I-M-I-W. Meow is worldwide and ancient for the cat. Meow, M-I-M-I-W. Meow is the cat. An Egyptian, the meow. The milk, drawn with the milk container. Meow, which is a M-I-U, M-I-W, meow. Meow. You call the limo a lift to floozer, to go flosser, to go flues the rich. The floozer see. The hope is meow. Meow, a lick, to lick the cat at. Meow, lick it. Of luck, L-U-Q, the luck, the full, of all, can pie 'em. And just one of these words reads here, the can pie and am from, or can pie from. This is two different Bibles. And so that's the meow, the meow to lick it, the luck if will. Of all can pie, can mouth me, God of her. And so that tells me that it's at the time that this was written, it was taboo to say God when somebody was pieing your kitty and you was crawling the bedboard. Yeah, you wasn't supposed to say God, so you held back. Back in the day, if you said God and you didn't say bless you after that, Grandma would smack you in the mouth. You pie me G'd of her, the G spot. Pie me G'd of her. And that's what it says about God's hiding spot. You see that in that movie about Zephaniah. But, it means for the priest to come give you some oral guidance, some pie me guide over. So I don't know who wrote this, but he's speaking as if he's the priest. And when Ecclesiastes 10 was written, they say it was, before 180 BC. Some scholars arguing, 450, 330 BC. But when this book was written, the Catholic Church was already running. And that's what it's doing. It's making fun of the Catholic priests. And, the meow, the Catholic. And hope is meowlick, the Catholic. At luck, if will, of all can pie my guider. The pie, the mouth. She needs my guiding word. She needs my guiding pie. My mouth, my guide of her. Come bum to camel call a lift. Fella bitched rims cabicle. A lift the flosser see. The flosser see. Go see my flosser. And hope is the Catholic. At luck, if will of all can pie me guide of her. So this is why they burnt the Library of Alexandria. It was full of books written in English, just a different script that you're not used to. And it wasn't just Alexandria. And I hate to try to research anything anymore. Google has made it impossible. But they burnt huge libraries all around the world that had all the old books that were all written in this ancient English. And so this secret Mason code is right here in this translation. After you figure out how to read this, and then you come back and look how they translate it, even in your thought, the king do not curse. Even though the king knows how to read this, and they have all the people acting like sheep, don't curse them. And even in your bedroom, not do curse for the rich. Don't blame the rich for knowing this. And a bird of the air may carry your voice. They have little ears everywhere. And in flight may tell the matter. In flight, when they're in interrogation room after they done got busted. And so it kind of means, hey, just keep your secrets. But I ain't a Mason. I ain't took no oath to nobody but the devil. I didn't know it was the devil. I just asked whoever wrote this book to help me read it. And as I read it, it just tells me that all the history they fed us is all screwed up. And they went through a lot, to hide these writings. And many people, the earthquake come, they grab this one book and run out the house. This was the most valuable thing they had. They knew they couldn't get rid of all the Bibles, so they burnt all the libraries and they changed the language. And that's why the closest thing to this language come from Western America. Out west where they couldn't come in and put schools in, and everybody only had one book. This is what they were reading. And so if this is your first time, even when I come back and I read it with all the directional markings upper and lower, and I believe I found where it says that there's 5 different ways this reads. And I can read a couple more of them, but it still reads in English. It just appears that more of the words sound Latin, and it's because they come from a more ancient English. They've been trying to get rid of a lot of the English words. All the other languages, they say that we're missing a lot of words. They have single words to describe things. And this is wise because they got these single words from words they tried to jam over these meanings. This is all English. And just at one time, a lot more of the Latin words were in the English, and it's where they come from. Alright, I'm going to cut this off here. Have a good day.